Right, now to disabled drivers. It wasn't so long ago that they had to do battle with the traffic in one of these little three-wheeled carts, and heaven help them. They happened to tangle with a truck. Now it's more normal for conventional vehicles with better crash protection to be specially modified, but even so, choosing a car and learning to drive can be a real challenge if you happen to be confined to a wheelchair. So we asked Simon Barnes of the 1 in 4 programme to investigate.
19 years old, just got a job, about to get a flat. All that's needed now to complete a picture of self-sufficiency is to pass a driving test and get a car. A pretty common and regular scenario, but how do you cross that hurdle if you have a disability? Obviously there are many different types of disability, some more severe than others, and so when contemplating learning to drive, an assessment is sometimes necessary in order to establish if and how getting behind the wheel is going to be possible. Scattered around the UK, there are 11 centres like this one here in Banstead, where you can come for your assessment.
I want to do some puzzles and tests with you to see whether your stroke has affected your thinking in any way. So I want you to choose some of these blocks and see if you can make this model.
George Claridge is undergoing a typical driving assessment, being examined by a team of consultants and therapists, evaluating the effects of his right-sided paralysis. A series of tests examine his reactions, perceptual and physical status. This will cost him £50, a fee to come out of his own pocket. A report will be sent to him and his doctor, outlining his potential for driving and any hand controls he may require. Having established his suitability and that George already had a full driving licence prior to the stroke, the centre were able to get him out on the road on his assessment day.
All you've mainly got to remember when you're driving with the left foot, you have now not got a clutch. That's the difficult bit, yeah? Yeah. And it takes a while to familiarise yourself that you're now accelerating with that foot and not the right foot, okay?
When Drusilla Henley wanted to learn to drive, she was fortunate to find a local school of motoring that could provide an automatic car with hand controls and a specialist instructor. But she did have to pay a small premium of an extra £1 per lesson. But sadly, there are few schools around the country as well equipped as this one.
Most people have considerable difficulty finding an experienced instructor living near to them, and even greater difficulty getting access to a suitably modified car. Many people need automatic transmission, perhaps hand controls, perhaps a left foot accelerator, and these aren't easy to come by. From the driving instructor point of view, we're running 3-day courses to encourage experienced driving instructors to come forward and learn more about disability, try out the cars with the controls, so they can go away and help people in their own areas.
Once you've got the OK to drive and have passed your test, then starts the traipsing around garages choosing a car to buy. But it's not just a matter of finding one which you like the look of.
Take your arm in. It's a long way from the chair, isn't it? Long way from the chair.
Obviously, the car will need to have sufficient room for the hand controls to be fitted. That's one consideration, but what else is important?
The height of the seat being so tall, so I can see over the steering wheel. The ease of access for getting into the car, because the door opens so wide, which enables my wheelchair to get up really close to the door, and then me being able to actually pull the seat up so I can pull the chair around the back of the seat.
So you've got everything in one car and you're off on your own now?
That's right, yeah, hopefully.
Well, almost. All she's got to do now is pay for it. An option available is Motability. With this scheme, a weekly social security benefit, mobility allowance, can be used as regular payments in either an HP or leasing arrangement for a new car. Leasing is Drusilla's choice, and this means that in return for handing over her allowance to Motability, plus making up any difference, she gets a brand new car for 3 years with servicing and maintenance included. At the end of that period, though, the supplier takes the car back, leaving you to start all over again if you choose. Whichever way you go about choosing your car, another consideration to make is the type of controls you're going to use. A difficult decision because there are so many available, but if you want to make your life easier, you could come here where there are a selection of cars fitted with various hand controls. Let's take a look at a couple. For my disability, paraplegia, all I need to drive an automatic car is a hand control for the accelerator and one for the brake. Now this lever operates the existing accelerator pedal through a simple cable system, while this one works the brake through a vacuum-fed servo. Quite a simple setup really, but for some more sophisticated equipment may sometimes be necessary. Andrew, you had a spinal cord injury. How's that left you physically?
Well, it's left me paralysed from the shoulders downwards, except for limited arm movement.
So how do you manage to control these adaptations?
Well, with my left arm, I steer, accelerate and brake. Forwards acceleration, backwards brake, and left and right for steering.
And how about the box on the door? What does that do?
That's for my handbrake, ignition, side and headlights.
Whereabouts? How do you work your indicators?
There's a head switch, which I hold down for a certain amount of beeps. 2 for left indicator, 3 for right indicator, 4 for dip on my headlights and so on.
Sounds like a pretty bit of complex kit. How much did it all cost?
It was 11,000 for the adaptions, on top of the actual normal price of the car.
It's well worth it though.
It is, yes.
Yeah.
Give me a lot of freedom.
But for some, like Philip Ward, it's not just driving that's the problem. For him, an automatic transit van had to be kitted out so he could get into it and drive without leaving his chair. Once that's locked into position, Philip uses a selection of easy-to-reach hand controls. Mounted on the door are switches for the electronic handbrake and the clamps which lock the wheelchair in place. The joystick to the right of the wheel controls the steering, the lever on the left is the accelerator and brake, and this box operates indicators by infrared signals. Is it pretty simple to use?
It's pretty easy once you can learn how to use it, yeah.
And do you mind me asking, how much does it cost?
Well, it costs £23,000, which is a lot of money.
Well, it's amazing what you can do with a transit. Here's a slightly different approach, a sort of travelling temple to Elvis Presley. But seriously, it's obviously good to see modern technology being used like that to radically improve someone's way of life, whatever the cost. The nonsense with the current disability allowance is that everyone gets the same amount, regardless of how much it costs, to carry out the modifications to meet their needs. Perhaps there's room there for a real rethink. We've put together a fact sheet for disabled people who want to become mobile for the first time. I'll give the address later in the programme. Meanwhile, BBC Pebble Mill, Birmingham B57QQ. Marking your envelopes, please, at disabled drivers, and please enclose a standard addressed envelope. Just a note for Rally Quest.